Bangor will begin a 2-year property revaluation project this month. More than 11,000 real estate parcels will be appraised in an attempt to establish more equitable property values. The last citywide reevaluation was in 1987. According to KRT Appraisal, the company that's conducting the revaluation, about 1/3 of property owners can expect to see a tax increase, 1/3 will see a decrease, and 1/3 will stay the same. Data collectors will go around to each property, measuring the exterior of each building and attempting to inspect the interior. At an informational session tonight, the city assessor said it's not mandatory to let someone into your home, but participation is encouraged.
Participation to the extent that the property owner can provide accurate information to the data collector, either from an interior inspection or from an interview between the property owner and the data collector. They'll have good information to rely upon, and it really takes the participation of the public to make sure that the revaluation numbers are based on good data.
A remote information session will take place on June 20th. For more information and to answer frequently asked questions, you can go to bangormaine.gov/revaluation.